Good morning students, this is 12th class biology chapter 13 organisms and population lecture number 2. Topics to be discussed today are abiotic factors. In previous lecture also we were discussing about abiotic factors and we have discussed about temperature and water. Today we will discuss about light and soil, and after that responses to abiotic factors will be discussed. So let's start with light. Plants need sunlight for photosynthesis. Small forest plants like herbs and shrubs are adapted to photosynthesize optimally under very low light. So different types of plants can photosynthesize at their maximum rate under different quantity of light. For example, small forest plant like herbs and shrubs can photosynthesize maximally at very low light because these plants get very low quantity of light all the time, because all the time they are overshadowed, those plants are overshadowed by tall and canopied trees. That's why those plants get very low light, and those are adapted according to that, right? Those are adapted according to that to photosynthesize maximally in that low quantity of light, right? That's why this quantity of light is very important for the growth of plant. Okay. Now many plants depend on sunlight for photoperiodism. That is called flowering in response to duration of light. So along with the quantity of light, duration of light is also very important. As you have studied in 11th class about the long day plants and short day plants, about the photoperiodism you have studied, right? So by that you can understand that how duration of light is important for the flowering. So we can say along with the quantity of light, duration of light is also very important. So these two things you will describe here, that how light can affect the organisms. After that, last point is many animals use the diurnal and seasonal variation in light intensity and photoperiod for timing their foraging. Okay, so many animals use the photoperiods for their foraging also. Okay, and different light intensity also, like some are nocturnal animals. Okay, so they get a signal with the intensity of light, with the light intensity. Okay, and seasonal variations are shown by some animals, like when the light intensity is low in some season and light intensity is high in some seasons. So these seasonal variations are shown by different animals due to different intensities of light in different seasons, right? And some animals get to know about their foraging time, their reproductive time, and also their migratory activities due to light intensity, right? And you can say duration of light also. So that's why light is very important abiotic factor that affect the organisms. Sun is the ultimate source for light and temperature on the land, right? Now deep in the oceans. How deep? More than 500 meter deep in the oceans. The environment is dark because no light is available there, right? So environment is dark and there is no energy available from the sun. Sunlight cannot penetrate up to that depth. That's why we can say no energy is available, because all the source of all the energy on the earth is sun. Okay, and within water also the source of energy is sunlight. So no energy is available there in the form of sunlight. The spectral quality of solar radiation is also important for the life. Spectral quality, there is light of different spectrum, like the sunlight that we get, how different spectrum. The UV spectrum is harmful to many organisms. You know, UV radiations are harmful for us also. So not all the color components of the visible spectrum are available for marine plants. So marine plants, or all the marine organisms, the organisms which live in sea and oceans. So different all the visible spectrum means all the spectrums of light are not available because only some spectrum of light can penetrate in the ocean. So for all the organisms of ocean, all the spectrum of light is not available, and those organisms are adapted to survive according to that light spectrum only, right? Next factor is soil. The nature and properties of soils is differed due to the climate, weathering process, sedimentation, method of soil development, etc. So different type of soil is found in different areas due to different climate in different areas, variation in weathering processes by which soil is formed from rocks, okay, and sedimentation process and other methods of soil development. So due to these variations, soil having different properties is found in different areas, right? Now soil composition, which things are present in soil. Soil is having more sand or more clay, okay, or more slate. So that comes under soil composition, okay. So soil composition, grain size of soil, particle size of the soil, and aggregation properties of the soil. All these properties of the soil determine the percolation, means how much water can percolate, can penetrate into deeper layers of the soil through the deeper layers of the earth through the soil. That define the percolation. And the water holding capacity of soil, means how much water can be holded by the soil. So the percolation and the water holding capacity. These properties of water are determined by soil composition, grain size and aggregation, right? And these are very important for determining the vegetation type. Means the percolation and water holding capacity of the soil is very important for the determination of the vegetation type, means the types of plants which can grow in that soil. These characteristics and parameters like pH of the soil, because different types of plants can grow in different in soil having different pH, right? Mineral composition of the soil and topography determine the vegetation and animals in an area. So we can say that all these properties of the soil like pH, mineral composition, topography, percolation and water holding capacity of the soil, all these properties of soil are responsible for the type of vegetation that will grow in that soil, and also indirectly for the animals which will survive in that area, because the animals in any area depend on the type of vegetation in that area, right? So we can say the vegetation and animals in any area depend on the properties of soil, right? In aquatic environment, the sediment characteristics determine the type of benthic animals. Benthic animals are those animals which live in lowest areas of the water, okay, which live at the lowest level of any water body like lake or ocean. There are different zones divided in water bodies, so organisms which live at lowest level are called benthic animals. So we can say in aquatic environment, the sediment characteristics of the soil will determine the type of those animals which can survive in those in that lowest level of that water body. Next topic is responses to abiotic factors. We have studied about different abiotic factors. So how the different organisms give response to these different abiotic factors. So organisms maintain a constant internal environment despite varying external environmental conditions, and that property of organisms is called homeostasis, right? Every organism has a capability to maintain a constant internal environment and that is called homeostasis. And this homeostasis is possible by different processes in different organisms, and these possible processes are regulate, conform, migrate or suspend, okay. By these processes different organisms can maintain their internal constant environment, or you can say they can maintain homeostasis. So let's start with regulate. Regulate. It is a maintenance of homeostasis by physiological and behavioral means. So here, by some physiological changes in their body or by some behavioral changes, organisms maintain homeostasis, right? It ensures constant body temperature, that is called thermoregulation. Thermoregulation means maintenance of constant body temperature by organisms, and also constant osmotic concentration, that is called osmoregulation. Osmoregulation means maintenance of constant osmotic concentration. So different organisms can ensure thermoregulation and osmoregulation by some physiological or behavioral changes, right? For example, all birds and mammals are regulators, you can say. Okay, they can regulate their internal body environment despite of the external environment by some physiological or behavioral changes. And also very few lower vertebrates and invertebrates also, these can also regulate their homeostasis. Okay, now let's see how this regulation is done in mammals. So thermoregulation means maintenance of a constant body temperature in mammals. Thermoregulation, how it is done in mammals. The success of mammals is mainly due to their ability to maintain a constant body temperature, right? Because mammals are found almost in all types of habitat. So that success of mammal is mainly due to their ability of thermoregulation. Like how they can thermoregulate themselves. For example, in summer, when outside temperature is more than body temperature, our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, and when outside temperature is more than that, what happens? Sweating occurs. Okay, and that sweating results in evaporative cooling. Like evaporation will be there due to sweating, and due to evaporation there will be cooling, and due to that evaporative cooling, it brings down body temperature, right? So by this method, or you can say by sweating, by simply sweating, we can maintain our body temperature in summers. We are also mammals, so all the mammals can sweat and can maintain their body temperature in summers. And in winters, what is done? When the temperature is below 37 degrees Celsius, that is our constant internal body temperature, right? So when the temperature is below that, shivering occurs, and due to shivering there is production of heat and raises the body temperature. Okay, due to shivering, heat is produced and body temperature rises, right? So in summer and winter, by different behavioral changes or physiological changes, we can thermoregulate. Okay, thermoregulation is done in mammals. So this is an example of regulate. Next is thermoregulation is energetically expensive, especially for small animals like shrews and hummingbirds. You can see here in the picture shrews and hummingbirds. So they have a larger surface area relative to their volume. So it depends on surface area relative to their volume. If any organism is having large surface area relative to their volume, they lose their body heat very fast when it is cold outside, right? Then they have to expend much energy to generate body heat. That's why it becomes a very expensive process for these animals. Therefore, very small animals are rare in polar regions. Okay, this is the reason that why very small animals are found rarely in polar regions. So this question can be asked here, that what is the reason that why that very small animals are found rarely in polar regions? Because you can tell the reason that the thermoregulation is energetically expensive process, and small animals have large surface area relative to their volume. Okay, it is large surface area relative to their volume. So this point is important here. You will say that elephant has more larger surface area, but relative to their volume, if we talk about relative to their volume, these small animals have large surface area, right? And they tend to lose their heat very fast due to their large surface area. And if they want to generate heat to for their body heating, then they will have to expend much energy. That's why these small animals are not found in polar regions. Next way by which different organisms respond to different abiotic factors is conform. After regulate, next type is conform. Okay, so 99% of animals and nearly all plants cannot maintain a constant internal environment like us. Okay, because we can maintain a constant internal environment, but many animals and plants cannot do that. Okay, their body temperature or osmotic concentration change with the surrounding conditions. They are called conformers, right? So such animals or such organisms which cannot maintain their constant internal environment in terms of body temperature or the osmotic concentration, those are called conform. So their body temperature and osmotic concentration change with the surrounding conditions. In aquatic animals, osmotic concentration of body fluids changes with that of ambient osmotic concentration, right? In aquatic animals, osmotic concentration of the body fluids will change. If a freshwater animal will be kept in marine water, then it will face the problems. So we can say they face the osmotic problems. Okay, so the osmotic concentration of the body fluids changes with the osmotic concentration of the external environment, and such organisms are called conformers. With the help of this graph, you can understand about regulators and conformers. Okay, different types of organisms. Regulators means which can regulate their body internal body environment despite of the external environment, while conformers cannot maintain. Okay, so here you see in this graph, on one side internal level is shown, internal level of temperature or the osmotic concentration, you can say anything. Okay, so internal level is shown here, and on another side external level of temperature or the osmotic concentration, anything is shown here. Okay, so here you can see the regulators are represented by a red line, and here you can see this is a straight the regulators are represented by this line, and their internal level is constant. It is constant despite of external level. Okay, it is not changing. But here in the case of conformers, their internal level is constantly increasing with the external level, right? When the external level is increasing, conformers internal level is also increasing, means they are affected by the external environment, right? While regulators are not affected by the external environment, they have a constant internal level of temperature or the osmotic concentration, you can say, but conformer internal level is affected by external level. It is increasing with the increase in external level. Then there is a third case also for the partial regulators, that is shown by blue line, and here you can see what is this representing. Partial regulators are those animals which can regulate their body temperature or the osmotic concentration up to some level, but after that level, after that limit, you can say, they will behave as conformers. Okay, means after that level they will not be able to regulate their body temperature or regulate their osmotic concentration, right? So those animals are called partial regulators. Okay, so here you can see in the partial regulators in the blue line, for up to some length it is shown with regulators, means up to this time, up to this limit, they can regulate their body temperature and the osmotic concentration, but after this limit they are not able to regulate it, right? So you need to make this graph. Next type of response to abiotic factors is migrate. So many animals like birds move away temporarily from stressful habitat to a more hospitable area. Okay, some habitat can be stressful in some season for many birds. Okay, like if it is very cold at a particular time in a particular season, at that time that habitat can be called stressful habitat. So many birds move from that stressful habitat for a particular season to a more hospitable area. Hospitable area means in which area those organisms or those birds will found the favorable conditions for the survival. Okay, so these birds will move to more hospitable area and return when stressful period is over. Stressful period like you can say like winter season. Okay, like a particular season. So that particular season can be stressful condition for some organism, right? So this habit is called migration. Okay, and this is called migrate type of response. Okay, and example is given here, like during winter season, Keoladeo National Park, that is in Bharatpur, Rajasthan, in our country. Okay, that name is Keoladeo National Park, and this national park hosts migratory birds coming from Siberia. So many birds from Siberia come to this park in winter season. And other extremely cold northern regions also. So from Siberia and also from northern regions, many birds comes to this park of Bharatpur, Rajasthan. Okay, and Siberian crane is an example of a bird that is a migratory bird, and this bird comes in Bharatpur Keoladeo National Park during winter season from Siberia. That's why its name is Siberian crane, and this type of habit is called migration. Next type of response is suspend. In bacteria, fungi and lower plants, thick-walled spores help to survive unfavorable condition. You know about the spore formation in bacteria and fungi and in some lower plants also, like in algae also. Okay, these thick-walled spores are formed, and these are formed to survive in unfavorable conditions. Under suitable conditions, these spores can germinate. In higher plants, seeds and some vegetative reproductive structures serve to tide over periods of stress. Like seeds and some vegetative reproductive structures, like you can say rhizomes in some plants, okay, tubers in some plants. So all these are methods to suspend. All these are methods to suspend or to tide over the periods of stress by reducing their metabolic activity. Like in seeds, seed is also a method of suspend by plant, by which they can reduce their metabolic activity and they can survive in unfavorable condition. Okay, likewise rhizome, tuber, all these are methods to survive in unfavorable conditions, during unfavorable conditions. Okay, and when the favorable conditions comes, these can germinate again. Okay, like seeds can germinate on the outcome of favorable conditions, right? So these are suspend methods. Formation of spores, formation of seeds, formation of rhizomes or tubers, all these are suspend method to survive in unfavorable conditions. So all these can germinate under favorable condition when moisture and temperature is perfect. In animals, examples are, these are also examples of suspend in animals. Like you have seen the example of suspend in case of plants. Okay, now these are examples in animals. Like first is hibernation of bears during winter. Here you can see in the picture also, bears in polar region undergo hibernation during winter season. Second is picture of snails, and these are estivation of snails. Hibernation means winter sleep and estivation means summer sleep. Okay, so some snails and fishes during summer season undergoes estivation, means summer sleep. So in both these hibernation and estivation, metabolic activities are reduced, okay, so that the organism can survive during those unfavorable conditions. Some animals can undergo hibernation, and some animals can undergo estivation to survive during unfavorable conditions. Okay, and examples are also given here, and you know, hibernation example, reptiles can also hibernate, so that is also an example. Next type of suspend in case of animals is diapause. Diapause is a stage of suspended development. So how it is different from hibernation and estivation? Here in the hibernation and estivation, the mature organism animal is showing the winter sleep or the summer sleep. But in case of diapause, a stage of suspended development is there, means development is suspended here. Okay, mature animal is not present here. This organism will be suspended at any of the developmental stage. Okay, so a stage of suspended development is seen here in case of diapause. For example, in many zooplanktons in lakes and ponds. So these zooplanktons show diapause. Their development is suspended. Okay, they just suspend their development for some time when the conditions are not favorable, and on the outcome of favorable condition, they again start their development from that stage only, right? So diapause is different from hibernation and estivation. Based on today's topics, your homework is NCERT question number 10, 12 and 13. Now let's discuss the homework solutions of previous lecture. Question number 2 and 4 of NCERT was given as homework. This is question number 2. If a marine fish is placed in a freshwater aquarium, will the fish be able to survive? Why or why not? The answer is fish will not be able to survive. Okay, because if placed in a freshwater aquarium, as their bodies are altered to high salt concentrations as provided by marine environments, because the marine water fish is adapted according to that environment, according to the higher salt concentration in marine water. Okay, the fish is adapted according to that, their body is altered according to that. That's why in a freshwater environment, fishes fail to regulate the water which enters the body through the process of osmosis. Okay, you know, osmosis occurs from high water concentration to low water concentration. So what will happen if this marine water fish is kept in fresh water? This water movement cannot be regulated by that fish. Okay, due to the presence of hypotonic environment outside the bodies, outside the fish body. Hypotonic environment means less concentrated environment, the water having less concentration of salt, because we are keeping it in fresh water. So in fresh water, hypotonic environment is there in comparison to the internal environment of the fish, right? Salt concentration is less in fresh water. Okay, that's why due to that hypotonic environment, water enters the body of fish, which causes their body to swell, leading to the death of marine fish, right? And vice versa happen in case of if we keep freshwater fish in marine water. Okay, exoosmosis will occur in that case, and that fish will also be not able to survive. Now let's see answer of question number 4. Question is, most living organisms cannot survive at temperature above 45 degrees Celsius. How are some microbes able to live in habitat with temperature exceeding 100 degrees Celsius? We discussed about it in a previous lecture that some bacteria can survive in temperature exceeding 100 degrees Celsius. So how it is possible? So thermophiles or archaebacteria, like archaebacteria are found in this temperature, right? So thermophiles or archaebacteria are ancient forms of bacteria that are present in deep sea hydrothermal vents and hot water springs. They are able to withstand the high temperature exceeding 100 degrees Celsius, as their bodies have adapted to these extreme environmental conditions. How their bodies are adapted according to that? Such entities comprise of specialized thermoresistant enzymes that perform metabolic functions which do not get destructed at these extreme temperatures. Okay, because these bacteria, in short you can say these bacteria have some special enzymes, thermoresistant enzymes, and these thermoresistant enzymes present in these bacteria do not get denatured at high temperature, because as we also have some enzymes for different metabolic functions, okay, but our enzymes get denatured at high temperatures, okay, and that's why those will not our body will not be able to perform the metabolic functions, and we cannot survive at that high temperature. But the enzymes present in these bacteria are thermoresistant enzymes, and these enzymes do not get denatured at high temperature and are able to perform all the metabolic functions perfectly at that high temperature also, right? That's why these enzymes, these bacteria can survive at very high temperature.